Alice, really grateful that you've taken the trouble to talk to us, and I know that you're grabbing whatever breaks you can at the moment. So, thanks for giving us the time. I first met you, or not first met you, but I had the privilege of baptizing you a few years ago. So you're very much part of our Baptist community. And then, of course, you went off to train as a nurse, and you were kind of expecting, I guess, to finish uni and spend the summer doing all those things that former university students do. But you found yourself absolutely thrown in the deep end.
Yes, no, I went on annual leave from uni in March and just didn't end up going back to uni, went straight into work in an A&E department instead.
Mm-hmm. And you were there in A&E, so I guess you were one of the first faces that people saw when they were coming in that first wave of COVID emergencies. You're still there. You're still working very hard. Tell us how are things at the moment in your particular A&E department?
It's very, very, very busy. We've got a lot of extremely poorly patients at the minute. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of very distressing things, and dealing with a lot of very distressed family members as well. It's difficult, but we're all managing to keep our heads above water at the minute. But it is getting increasingly harder.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, that's one of the things I think we can begin to recognise, is that you are both having to care for sick people, but you're also having, I guess, to deal with relatives and worried others who are sort of adding to some of the stress of that.
Yes, no, we really, really feel from the relatives at the minute. There's nothing worse than knowing your family member's sick, and the best you can do is phone up and ask if they're okay. No, I'm dealing with a lot of phone calls of upset relatives, and even if someone is stable and they're sat up talking to us, when the relative can't see that, it's really upsetting. They just assume the worst.
Mm-hmm. And that's quite a weight on the shoulders of someone who's relatively new in your role, that you're having to be that go-between between the family and the person who's unwell. We're doing this interview as part of our initiative to encourage people to pray for our NHS, and particularly the people who work in it. I mean, how can we pray for you and your colleagues at the moment?
Like for our physical health, definitely, because we're obviously very tired, and a lot of staff in our department have caught COVID and taken it home to their families. So they've had to isolate then, meaning one, we've got less staff, and two, they're poorly. So pray for our physical health and that we can stay healthy, and also our mental health, because we're seeing very distressing scenes every day now. And we go to work and see COVID, and we can't switch off necessarily at home, because we go home and you switch on the news and there's COVID. We can't go out because of COVID. It's pretty much consuming our lives at the minute.
I mean, thanks for sharing that, Alice, because I think, there's so much in what you've said that it all makes sense when we hear you say it, but it's so easy for us not to recognise it, that those of you who are in the front line, you are actually putting your families at risk, because you're putting yourselves at risk and then you're going home. You're not having, you're a young person, I guess you go out with your mates and stuff like that, and that's how you'd unwind, and you're not able to do that. And then, yeah, as you say, all you're getting is the narratives of COVID on the news and everything else, and you're just not escaping from it. And I guess, yeah, that must mount up. So, I mean, it's such a privilege that you've joined us today, and I hope that you can assure your colleagues as best as you can that we were really serious about encouraging people to actively pray, and also think practically about whether there are ways that can help. I know a lot of people were taking food in and things in the early days. Is that still needed? Is that still happening?
To be honest, the biggest help I'd say at the minute is just be sensible, listen to the guidance, stay at home, because it affects everyone, not just in COVID situations. If we are full and you have a nasty fall, an allergic reaction, anything really, and we're full, we're going to struggle to give out the treatment as effectively as possible. The message I really want to say is we're here when you need us, but please be sensible. And if there's other services you can go to, like walk-in centres, GPs, call 111. That would be very much appreciated if you'd try going there first. But obviously, we are here if you need us. Don't suffer.
And thank you for that, Alice, because again, I think one of the things we want to say very strongly with this call to prayer is it's also a call to responsible citizenship. And, you know, it's wonderful that we've got a health service, but people like me, our first line contribution right now is to stay at home and to do everything we can to avoid being one of those people that turns up at your A&E department. So I hope that people will take that message to heart as well. Alice, we're going to be praying for you and for your colleagues later in our service today. I hope that our churches will take this conversation as something to motivate them to get in touch with their local health providers and to provide whatever support they can. But thank you so much for what you are doing. It's an absolute privilege to be able to talk to you. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And may you know God's blessing as you carry on with the vital work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for all your prayers as well.